It was absolutely major. Between the two coasts, 5 Points in northeast Denver was major, and you had major jazz and jazz pop acts who performed there. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And see,
Right
I'm learning so much about the history of Colorado coming from Detroit myself, and growing up in that Motown, history and the richness of that to come to Colorado and hear how rich Colorado was at that particular time.
Speaking of Motown, that just reminded me of Martha Reeves and the Vandellas dancing in the street, and they name off all those. They name off all these big cities in the Northeast. They name L.A. in the West. But when, of course, I was much younger, I'm like, they never mentioned Denver. And the point is, I don't think people really, African Americans, frankly, thought that there were many African Americans or African American history right here in Colorado. And our numbers may not be great, but our history here absolutely is. I mean, and that goes way beyond Lincoln Hills. So
yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I had no idea about the Klan being so big here. That was shocking to hear.
During the 1920s, the Klan membership second only to Indiana.
Wow.
Second only to Indiana, and across the West, the Klan during that time, the 1920s. The Klan was very powerful, but particularly powerful in Denver. You had a Mayor Stapleton, who was a rather opportunistic member of the Klan. I mean, using it for political purposes. Had a governor, Clarence Morley, who was a Klan member. I had a U.S. Senator, Rice Means, who was a member of the Klan. And you can go to History Colorado, the History Museum in Denver, 12th and Broadway, and you can see in their Lincoln Hills exhibit, they have, and it's under glass, you can't touch it, but they have a Klan registry just for Denver. And that thing is thick as a Bible.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That is a Klan registry, and it's open. It's open to a page, but you look on that page and you look at the address, and it's so interesting.
I'm glad they're exposed like that. Good enough. Put it out there.
Yeah, it's there. But again, it is actually what I'm saying is the registry is just for Denver, but it is just thick with names. Okay, and that's just for Denver, not even for all of Colorado.
I wonder how they got that registry. That's a pretty fascinating story in itself, too.
Those are historical artifacts. They have a Klan. They have a Klan gown that is again behind glass, and that was contributed, I believe, by a family member of the person who owned that Klan gown. So you never know where artifacts are come from, but there you go.
Again, Danny, I thank you. I am so grateful that you agreed to come on the show and just share this with us, because my mind, honestly, you've opened my head up. I mean, it's just it's all over the place. I'm just thinking about, okay, I got to check this out. I'm going to go back down to the museum and check that out. And then I want to go up to Lincoln Hills and do that. Oh, my goodness. And really, right, as y'all were speaking, I mean, just my mind was spinning.
You've actually seen it, though, right, DJ Smooth?
Well,
yes, I have.
Yeah. Oh, both of you have.
No, I have not. Danny have. I went to the museum down there on 12th and Broadway.
History Colorado.
History Colorado, correct. And I was in there, and I saw a lot of the history and artifacts. When I was a student at OCB, we had done, me and my classmate Vernell, we had done a little short video on the history of Colorado, on Lincoln Hills. And that's how I became fascinated with Lincoln Hills. And I'm still fascinated by this place,
Yeah, this is very interesting. I want to go to both places now.
Well, good. Well, good. I have one more tidbit for you all. You didn't ask.
But no, I want it.
Yeah, me too. I'm hungry. What you got?
During the period of time we're talking about the 1920s, well, before the 1920s certainly, but the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and into the 50s, Denver and Colorado is a pretty racially segregated place. There were no laws that required segregation. There were no laws. It was segregation by custom. But there was one Jim Crow law that dates back to the only one that I could find this was even passed by the territorial legislature. Even before Colorado was a state, it was a territory of the U.S. And the territorial legislature passed this law in 1864, and it prohibited interracial marriages, or marriages, I should say, between white persons and, as the law said, Negroes and mulattoes. So, and that law was on the books until 1957.
Wow. It's fascinating that you are a civil rights attorney. I mean, you've just seen so much, I'm sure, in your profession over the years.
Well, that was research. I wasn't really practicing law in the 1950s.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, I know you're educated.
I'm not that old.
No, I know you're educated though, so you're familiar with everything, and yeah, I get what you're saying. Hey, I even got the strong coffee. I guess that didn't come out right. Because,
no, that's okay.
No, I realize
that's all right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We'll edit that out, DJ Smith.
No,
that's
actually,
okay.
I'm leaving that in there.
Okay, go ahead.
Old, but not that old. Old, but not that old.
No. You know, she's a very young, very beautiful young lady.
Oh yeah. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Your check is in the mail.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what we need here, not just on these months that we recognize and understand the contributions of Black Americans, but every doggone day of the week. We need this type of stuff to get out there to our youth, because they don't know where they came from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So many are lost, are clueless as to where they came from. So, and as my mom always said, you'll never know where you're going till you first know where you came from.
And that's kind of what I was trying to say that I didn't say correctly, but being a civil rights attorney, you do have the history of where we've been from and where we're heading. And what I've noticed a lot, thank God for the internet, is we haven't been taught history correctly in school. So, I mean, it's important to get this information out there.
Right.
It is so interesting. I was just telling, we're having a discussion, my family and I were having a discussion, and I told my son, I said, if I had my druthers, history would be, U.S. history would be mandatory in elementary school,
mm-hmm.
in middle school,
mm-hmm.
in high school, in community colleges, in universities, honestly. Because you have people, just in general, who are woefully ignorant of various histories in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a history teacher, so, it kind of drives me crazy. And it's like, oh, my goodness. But sadly, history, any kind of history, is actually not emphasized. That's not what they're testing for. That's not what they test for anymore. So,
yeah, it is.
That's very sad.
It is.
That is that truly is very sad. It is a rich history. It's a joyous history.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sad and devastating
mm-hmm.
history. It's all of those things combined. But
really
mostly it is American history.
Right.
And your mama was right, Sean.
Yeah, she told all of us, you'll never know where you're going till you first know where you came from. And see, when I was growing up, they taught, American history. They taught us about, George Washington Carver or Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman. We had plays and different things, at least back in Detroit, I can remember that as a child because that's the only reference I have because I grew up there. So I can't reference any other place.
Well, I didn't grow up in Detroit, and in elementary school, I didn't learn that history. I mean, George Washington Carver, the peanut, the scientist and the peanut, throw that one out. I don't mean throw it out, but I think that's what a lot of people would say yes to. But I am talking about a more complex history, the history of enslavement and how integral it was to the United States.
Right.
How the United States, the colonies first and then the United States, were literally built on the back of enslaved labor, enslaved workers.
Yes,
and people people think they understand about slavery, but they really, really don't. How slavery and the fight over slavery, frankly, touched almost every aspect of American life. And those threads are deep. They're woven into the very tapestry of America. And it's incredibly important, and people don't even understand it.
Yeah, they don't. And
and it's not just black people. I'm saying this is American history, and therefore Americans.
Every American, black, white, yellow, red, needs to understand and learn the truth. Because today what we're learning, and this is just me talking, but now what we're learning today is his story.
Yeah.
And see, I dissected the word for a reason. We're learning his story, not history, but his story. And they are rewriting history and teaching these lies to our children.
Well, I actually have to offer a different opinion on that.
Go for it.
I mean, there's been major change in the study of history and the writing of history in the last 30 to 40 years. I mean, 1960s wasn't just about, revolution on college campuses and uprising in American cities. I mean, the academic, shall you say, interpretation of history, of various histories, has changed. And so the history that is being taught now, the history that is being studied and written, it's not the old days. It is not the old days. And what's being elevated now are the voices of people who they didn't read, they were not presidents, they were not famous politicians, they did not leave a record of books and speeches. It's the everyday person in all colors, Americans of all colors, immigrants, workers, and honestly, that's what's so exciting about American history now. It's not, I will speak for myself, it's not that history that I came up with, where you learned about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, blah, blah, blah. But it is, you're more inclined to learn about George Washington's slaves than you're just as likely to learn about the people who he enslaved as you are to George Washington now. And I say hear to that.
That's part of the healing, I feel, when you know everything and you put it all together. That's how we can heal as a nation, by understanding why people feel the way they did and how we got to where we are today.
Well said. Well said. And that is well said. That really is the approach to the study of history now, and so it's different. It's different, and it's so improved.
I do feel like the media is trying to resegregate us again, though, and there's kind of a plot. And so, hopefully all the people that are good-spirited will override that and bring us all back together. Because I do believe as a nation, 90% of the people are good, and then you have those hidden Klan people or just people of all colors that have their own prejudice and anger issues that don't want to come full circle and try and rise us to a higher level of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes. You are going to have that in every group, in every nation.
That's
now,
true.
and I hate using the word race because there is just one race. There's a human race,
Amen.
and then there's everything else. you know. So in this nation, you're going to have that bitterness, that ugliness, that hatred. And it doesn't matter what nation you come from, you're just going to have those groups of people.
I'll tell you what I'm excited about is to see how Chris Rock handles the Oscars.